Yeah, so you weren't here for, when Ryan worked this all out, but.
Do you wanna give them this one to look at, or?
Oh, that's the roads one. This
Oh,
one, we wanted to make sure Jeremy saw this, but the budget one
okay.
for the general fund.
So, yep, so with the green line at the top, that's the 4% max growth quotient versus last year. We went ahead and actually, took in the mandates, spike in perf, along with Porter Stark's, levy rate, and then we get to our 1.55 number. And then from there, you can see the asks from everyone.
Are all they asked, are they all in? Everybody got everything turned in?
Yeah. Just
So in the past, total ask from departments 3.5 million. Is that, how is that historically? You see, is that?
no, that's not a little crazy.
No, what I'm saying is it usually 4.5 or 5, or is it usually 2? I mean,
It seems high a little bit, but it's not, yeah, they always add.
yeah, I know everybody asks for everything, but I'm just,
Yeah, I'd say between 2 and 4 million is your
Yeah, probably.
average ask each year. So, but we went through and we broke down what the actual salary asks were. And then what the asks were for like all the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 series, actual operational ones. So, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of different ways we can go about it. And then there's a couple of funds there on the bottom that have kind of taken a hit this year with some people being moved into them. And so we could potentially look at moving them back from their funds to the general fund.
When we did all those changes at the end of last year and the meeting and moved a bunch of stuff out of the general fund to free some funds up.
Two of the
Yeah.
funds really did take a hit, the prosecutor and the clerk. The auditor and the recorder probably could maybe go one more year, but it would start hurting both of those funds as well, so. Things on the horizon that could potentially pop up, but. And you see there, the prosecutors asking for 2 new prosecutors. Jails asking for a couple new ones, sheriff. Juvenile detention. And all that top green number, that encompasses everything that's been passed this year. So that already takes into account the 2 new parks people that have been added in, already taken into account all the additionals that we've done so far this year. So that green number includes all of those changes already made. So that's including 2 new parks people in the general fund for next year.
Yeah, we're looking at 1.55 to play with in the general fund there. So.
And then with raises. Again, anytime we talk about raises, for the most part going forward, just think in your head, 1%, $500,000, 2% million, 3%, 1.5. So any kind of
With FICA per.
all
With that, all included?
Yep.
Yeah, that's all county employees minus, I think, elected officials.
And the mandated one.
Yeah, the mandated ones.
How are you going back to the green numbers? I was gonna ask that.
So you take so the 2024 budget. And you times it by 4%. And that's the max that we can grow.
But how are you using the additional positions we've already added? Like, how wouldn't that be a subtract, like the parks and stuff that, we're spending?
No, that's what I'm saying. That green number without the parks and all that, that number would have been higher. That would have been closer to, whatever.
So you subtracted that out?
Yeah, I subtracted that all out. So that way that green number is the actual starting number with all that stuff included into it.
But essentially it's already new budget item, like 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, adopted budget, then that was the other thing that we were cognizant of is. That when we're looking at like the 2024 budget stuff. That we have to include all the additional just because of all the moving around we had to do at the beginning of the year. Plus it does, that's everything that we have had already done this year. That way we're playing with a full deck, but
Yeah, it's reoccurring.
the one that isn't was the sheriff had that renegotiation of the federal prisoner, rate. So that is, once every 3 years, they're allowed to do that, so that's taken out. Sue's, ratio or reassessment study, that's baked in because she needs that for the next 3 years, so.
Yep.
But that's basically kind of what we're looking at, if we're working backwards on the general fund here next year.
What's revenue looking like with that one fund, interest fund from the state, you know, that
Yeah, the basically what the treasurer's getting from, so,
Last year, I think we brought in, what, 4.5 million. This year, I think they're on pace to bring in 5.5 million. Maybe a little bit more. So right now, it's definitely doing its job.
shoring up health insurance, really.
Yeah.
So run through this, you have 3,500,000 for total new asking department, 1,347,000 for salaries. 452, 515 asked for raises, so what you're saying is. These are the asks, this is the total amount minus rate, women's salaries.
So, yeah, so salaries would be all these new ones.
Right.
And then an additional, so if you added all these up,
Yeah,
plus the 452, then so this is all like 900 grand. And then there's an additional ask for raises, and that was like mainly the sheriff and jail and some of the probation officers.
gotcha.
We tried to piece it out as granular as possible, just so you kind of can see, okay,
How do we get medical and life insurance? There's no way that these, because isn't it about 22 grand per employee for health insurance?
we,
20,000.
yeah,
20.
yeah, we kind of bake in for each new employee, it's 20K.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 17. So that's why, is because they don't show, like, there's 2 auditor ones down here, there's 4.
Yeah, I mean,
add these
17,
two together.
17.
So
times,
of that
20 grand,
3.5,
3,500.
it's 1.3 in salary.
Yes, but we're also short. We've
That
been
1.3.
short, so
Oh,
I I've added more.
So
money
you're,
to
so,
it.
so you're saying that's also the short money that we're, because I knew we're short every.
Yes. Yeah, that's the short
They're
money.
moving back in.
So we're
one
short
new
by,
position.
what, 650?
Yeah.
700,000?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what we tried to separate, was like the full-time 1,000 series and then
Yeah.
hourly
More
overtime.
than that, yeah.
And then,
800,000,
yeah, and then
something like
Ryan
that.
added up 2,003, so this is those are like all printers.
So this is in addition to that, or is that?
No, that's
included in there?
that's within it.
included.
Mhm. So,
Yeah, I mean, definitely have a couple of things to fit in there. I mean, and again, it just depends on, do we pass like all the, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 series? And then, just revert everything back salary wise. Then pick and choose new people, pick and choose new positions. I mean, you could do none of it, and, keep it. You can give raises, all those types of things, so.
Where is the health insurance fund? Like, how's that doing?
So. We've figured, it's just been misbudgeted. For a couple of years, and so. Once we actually budget it correctly, starting next year.
What do you mean?
What?
What do you mean by misbudgeted and budgeting it correctly?
So for the last 4 or 5 years, there's always been something to pick up the slack. So there's always 10 million budgeted, but the final bill always comes out at 12, 12.2, 12.5. So we've always found ways, whether it been ARPA, whether it been foundation money, whether it been, the
Investments.
investment money, something is always, over the last couple of years, made up that 2.5 million. But when we start getting into the 1.5 million for CCMG, when we start getting into the 500,000 for Lee, when we start getting like all of a sudden
For what?
Lee and IT.
Oh, geez.
So
yeah,
that's, like, once we start like pulling all those monies and doing all those things, then next thing you know, you're scratching for pennies and shaking couch cushions.
Do we have true numbers, going back?
Yeah.
I thought we looked at them in the last couple of
Mhm.
years. that-
Yeah.
What the true cost is at the end, of the year, whenever, maybe after the first quarter, whenever. It's
And again, I think this is also a miscommunication between certain offices of saying, what is the true medical
Mhm.
cost of health insurance? Versus what is the true medical cost of health insurance plus the premiums that we're paying UMR, the monthly, I think they're taking into account the 10 million that we're spending on the employees, and all those claims. They're not taking into account the 2.5 that we're paying UMR.
I think you have to take it all, everything.
That's-
into
And then
reality.
the
But what I'm
rebate
saying
was
is,
another
I
one
think that
kinda-
everything has been budgeted towards that 10 million for the employees.
Well, you
Right.
just not understand, so that was another 2.5 million.
Whenever, at what point?
Or 2 point.
True cost.
Yeah, so that's when we sat down with the commissioner's office and kind of sorted it all out so that we're talking the same language there. And then
Correct.
realized like that there's,
For me, true cost is true cost.
Mhm.
10 million plus 2,250,000.
Mhm.
That's how much it costs to administer the fund.
Mhm.
That's your true cost of 12
Mhm.
million. You got a budget for 12 million too. You can't budget for 10.
Mhm.
And then you have this other 2.5 million, and we kind of figure,
Mhm.
this year we'll get it somehow. I mean, that's the way I would look at it, is we know we have to come up with about 12.5.
Yeah, and well, I guess like it also does depend what perspective you're getting your data from. Where you guys are the fiscal body, so that's, you're focused on what the bottom line cost is. If you are getting a presentation from UMR as the commissioner's office, and we're not talking apples to apples in terms of, oh, these are plus admin fees.
And plus, they're also, the other thing that they do is they take out all of reimbursement costs.
Right,
Too. So like Scott just knocks $1 million off the top
But see,
because we get $1 million in reimbursements, which is
but
fine.
that's not,
But we-
yeah,
but
you
we
don't
don't-
know when you're
but-
gonna get it.
but we
how
get
much
into-
are
so if I'm looking,
Yeah.
so if this is my business, right? And I have UMR,
Mhm,
at the end of the year, I want UMR to tell me reimbursements,
mhm,
prescription, rebates, whatever.
mhm,
At the end of the year, I want a bottom line dollar, what did we spend in 2023?
mhm.
With your costs, everything else, so then that's really the only way we can really get a historical. of
Right.
Really, is it going up, is it going down? Oh, we had a good claims year, okay, good, great, we still got a budget, because next year it might be up a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
And
I don't know,
I mean, at the end of the
my
day,
thought.
it hasn't fluctuated, a super amount over the last 4 or 5 years, it gradually, slowly goes up, but I mean, when you're talking a 10, 11, $12 million budget, it going up by 100,000 each year isn't, it's not a huge percentage, but it's still, and again, no one here is getting younger.
I did read in that gap report you sent that it said revenues for health insurance was like 9 million something, so technically we're about 3 million. 3 million short of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, the one we just.
Which
have
is
to
money
budget one out.
Which is, yeah, what we've been
I
under
forget the
budgeting.
budget.
Right.
And so we've always found a way to make it up somewhere else, to where that's where
There's,
the 700,000
It's-
there,
No, so the.
plus like
the
another
average
1.2 million
that was the audited
foundation.
one.
There's the 2
Yeah, that's
million
the
right
most
there
different
that
one.
we've already at least
You don't have to
made up to where
Mhm.
we're about even.
Right.
And then you can
We'll have it towards
fluctuate
the end of the
each
year.
year with reimbursements,
Reimbursements,
with
whatever, right.
with the claims and everything like that. So I think just by getting to that extra amount in the general fund and then the little bit of extra fund in the
Who's
foundation.
doing that, David, the gap report?
Last year we did it, this year it will be Baker Tilly doing it.
Like, is there any way that, just for this, purpose exercise, like, we were, I don't know, like, you would always have it done by like June or July, and then, I mean, it was huge for budgeting, like, can Baker Tilly, give us, just like if I went back in the report and highlighted the data that was important, I thought, or, like the counselor read, and
Oh, and,
Certain things that we can
and fish it out, I mean, we could very certainly try to get that if there's certain
Yeah.
parts of it that you find more useful than others, for
Yeah.
sure.
just for this whole purpose, that's
Um,
all, I mean,
Yeah, I totally get
or
that.
maybe you guys.
Yeah, cause
Yeah, it would really-
break down
yeah,
to
but
the
if
end
we
now,
know-
the, words. and
I'll go
nonsense
grab it
at the
real quick.
beginning.
Yeah, I'll go through it, yeah, and I'll highlight what I thought was really important.
No, I mean, you made a very good point last year. I think, like you said, we're slightly, leaning forward on skis. So, I mean, and again, it's not that the money's not there. It's just, how many years do we want to beg, borrow, and steal from each other to, get to those things and get everything done and accomplished versus budgeting them correctly, planning for them correctly, and,
Do we know what,
Hey, Mike, how you doing? Come on.
do we know what the spend down was of last year in the general fund? What, I mean, and that's one of the reasons we thought it's pretty healthy is that every department's not spending their entire budget. but-
the excess per, so last year, I believe, was right around the norm, like 1.6, 1.7 million, that was
Unspent.
yeah.
I think, yeah, it's always been what, high 80s, 90s, maybe low 90s or something, the percentages of the budget that we're spending. Which is good, I mean, we're still,
I mean, yeah, general fund is the one where you find the least amount of, waste, and everyone pretty much spends up the majority of their budgets, but there's also some this year that we're actually gonna get cleaned up, and so they ain't gotta come in front of you for transfers.
yeah, when you keep going through that exercise, as we started a couple of years ago, then you're gonna start dwindling into that.
Yep.
It's, if you're forcing it to properly, but, and maybe
Well-
they're learning, and then maybe they're gonna be like, oh, well, we do have this, so we could use that. And it's, they're going from spending 90% of their budget to 95% of their budget.
No.
Right.
And then again, just by speaking with some of the department heads, they've, expressed different perspectives and thoughts to us that, their mind frame, their thought process was completely different than, like Debbie Gunn and E911. She thought she could only use the line items that were budgeted for, none of the other ones. Like, didn't think like she could, have any other line item whatsoever, just the simple ones that were budgeted for, like, you have access to all of them, so if you wanna put, so she was always, trying to shove stuff in just the line items that she had, instead of putting them in the correct line items, saying, oh, this is really lease payment, this is really this or that. She would just be like, I only have these line items, so I'm gonna shove it in other supplies. Like, no, that's not what we do, but again, that's just learning things from different, department heads and their perspectives on it, and, figuring out that not everyone's always on the same page, so. But once they understand it, once they get it, they're like, oh, okay, and then that's when it turns into not additionals, we can transfer them, like,
Oh, boy, we're in trouble now.
They use their own work.
That remarks everybody.
We're allowed to have 4 in here, yeah, the rules.
If we throw that up, I sit by you, everything's cool. That's the rule. We good to go? We've been going?
Yeah, we were just talking about some stuff.
Jeremy already figured everything out? Like a budget, orientation for new department.
I was just thinking that.
I have thought about that for the last 2 years, and it is something that, I mean, if it's me putting it together, I have no problem doing that. I am the budget and finance director, and I easily, you know, can put a presentation together, have any new department heads, any, you know, older department heads that want a refresher, you know, come sit with me in, you know, March, April, we'll sit down for a day or two and just go over everything, and these are your line items, these are how things are actually budgeted, these are what the council looks for, you know, to actually give them the thought processes, you know, and the ideas that you guys are thinking of as well. So that way then they can kind of play with their budgets more efficiently and more to the point than, again, wasting your guys' time and coming up and asking for some of the things that they asked for, so. But no, I mean, I would love to do that, but I also don't know if that's something I can just set up and send out, or if that's something I need to run by the commissioners, or I
I
just,
wouldn't see why the commissioners wouldn't want it. If I'm hiring a new department, first thing I'd say, here, part of your orientation, so you can talk with the auditor about how, you know.
Everything,
for budgets, what we can.
everything works, yeah. So,
I think that might be beneficial. Because some of these department heads that you put in a position, there really isn't any other than just, you know, sometimes doing the best they can, or probably there isn't really any too much, you know, like not a technique training, I guess, on like that. Just kind of fall into it, or they have, maybe they have somebody there that can help.
Yeah, I don't know if it's got another one.
no, I mean, for the most part, it's, you know, trial by fire, and, you know, ask people that have either been in the office before, or, you know, the other wander up to us, hey, what do I do? So, always fun. But, no, I mean, that, to me, that's one thing that I thought of for the last 2 years, just so I, you know, can sit down and explain to anyone that doesn't understand, or, you know, maybe thinks of it one way when it's really the other way, just to clear things up. So, I mean, I would have no issue with that whatsoever. Whoever wants that. Be more than happy to have.
Yeah, it would be good to know the true health insurance number, like total all in.
Okay.
Like Reddit said, it's not the total of insurance cost, the admin cost, anything, whatever. You know, whatever it is. I would think by now we would have, you know, close to those on 23. Like insurance cost. And that.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, we had, like, again, I have all the historical costs, so. Again, it's just. What,
Because we have been trying to chase, I think it was the last 2 years, we put a couple $100,000 more in the budget, trying to chase it. I know we have added, you know, extra money, like ARPA money and stuff to boost up the. You know, but we're always trying to chase $1,000 here. Exercise, we just keep doing, chasing it. Awesome.
yeah, it's not going down.
So we're not putting
A little bit
a couple
to it,
$100,000
yeah.
every year.
I'm shocked that it's been staying stagnant, because I've been hearing from people that the prescription healthcare cost is just absolutely out of control for some people, some companies, so. You know,
And again, I don't know if it's the, you know, the deductible that we have, the people that, you know, are actually going in for these. I mean, like, even when I, like, you know, hurt my leg and had to go to like immediate care or whatever,
Right.
like, I mean, my charge is like $85, like. So,
but I'm just saying, as far as
Jesus.
prescription drugs, people have been really taking a hit on the prescription drugs, like. You know, I think Chesterton's looking at ways to try and, you know, go with other play, you know, do something.
oh, I guess,
Municipalities, I know Doolin's with North Shore now, so we're trying to get our employees, they have clinics all over the place. And they're like a qualified healthcare center, and, you know, something that might cost somebody like, you know, $50 every prescription is literally like $3. So they're saving a lot of money, both yourself saving money and the corporation or the city saving money too. I'm just curious, like, where our prescription drugs are at.
and again,
And all of this, you know?
so the only thing that I've ever known or anyone that I've ever known to do any of the negotiating through the health insurance is Scott McClure. So he would have to be the one to tell you, though, I mean, I can tell you what the bottom line was,
Right,
but I can't tell you what the,
what the percentages of anything are.
Yeah.
Prescription,
yeah,
what prescription.
or if they, could have got their $50 prescription for, $3 instead of this or that. I those things I don't know. I can just tell you about
Yeah,
what was actually spent on it, so. But Scott McClure would be the one to reach out to, and I mean, he's the one that has all the information and any negotiations between us and UMR, GIS, that whole conglomerate, whatever we have as our health insurance, so.
But I'm on Zoom.
Yeah, he's on Zoom. Or I forget.
Oh, yeah.
so what do you think the challenges are gonna be for this year's budget as far as, you know? 3,500,000.
Easy as that. Thank you.
Well. And it just depends on, I guess, if you wanna go about it in, a group goal sum type of thing, or if you wanna go through it individually, it's just one of those things, like, if you wanna go granular and go through each budget and sit there and say, okay, you get a new car, you don't, you get a
See,
new
my
hourly, you don't.
This is my problem with kind of how we do budgeting that way, is I think we have to have an idea of what we're going to kind of accomplish, because as you do this, it's like, and look, it happens to council all the time, right? Not just us, but someone comes in and says, hey, I need 2 new people, I'm struggling on this, okay, we'll give you everything else, boom, there you go. Then we give them, boom, by the time we're halfway through, hey, Dave, Ryan, where we're at?
We're gone.
We're at 950,000 or a million, well, we only have 500,000, we got the sheriff, we got, so it's like, we really somehow have to pay attention, almost like a dang debt clock. up
I
there.
swear,
I'm not
we've already,
kidding, like a debt
we-
clock, dude, like
you
every
read our-
time you say
you read
yes,
our mind,
boom,
we're already.
here's
talked
our,
about doing it, we're gonna.
we
do
have
it.
1.5 million, every time we say yes, boom, it goes
It'll-
up.
We're gonna have it
Boom,
right
almost
there,
like a
right away.
debt clock, so we can all see
You'll know exactly where you're at.
where the hell we're at.
Every
you
single
know?
time you go through a budget associated with the general fund, we're gonna have it available in real time as we do it. We've already thought about that one, so.
I love that, good, I
I
love that.
mean,
I love it because-
it's pretty straightforward, but we've read through old budget meetings and like, that's one thing that it gets asked a lot while you're doing it or at the very end of it. So it's super useful to just have it right there in real time, like, it's the #1 number that we're all looking at no matter what, so we might as well make it available in real time.
No,
So-
we'll get it updated at the end of every.
Yeah, so that way we know exactly what you're working with there, so.
Halfway through the meeting, we say no more money, rest you go home.
And
That's final reading.
I mean, I guess it just depends on how you wanna look at it, like, I guess me personally, if you're asking my opinion, like, to me, I give everyone in the general fund their 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 series asks that they ask for. Those are operational things, those are the printers that Annetta Jones is sitting down here asking for, that's the, and yes, that doesn't include any hourly. So it's just literally the operational stuff, but that's 700,000. So
Leaves you 800 left.
that leaves you 800 just to play with salaries. And that's
And then-
including
and then-
hourly, new people.
But then here's my
moving
next question.
people.
With 800 for salaries, I get that, but let's just say we said, hey, look, we want to do a 2.5% raise, or 3% raise, or this or that. What's, the interest on our money has been that 5%, so we have a little bit of like, where's our buffer, so we know, really kind of what we can approve over the 1.8.
Oh, you're talking about the theory that we had mentioned where actually we spend more than we like the whole budgeted versus. You know, like where if everybody spent 100% of all their funds in the general fund kind of deal.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I know, we get off our investments, we get, we used to get like 600 grand, maybe we were only getting like 1.5%. Now we're getting 4%, 5%, so that kind of helps us with like, what are we doing with that line up? Like, what's getting paid out of that?
Insurance.
Insurance?
Yeah, so that's pretty much been the money to, whenever these CCMGs, whenever
We're pulling out of that for that, at least budgeting. And the bad thing about that is, we all know, it's great when we're getting 4 and 5% on our interest rate now, but in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know when, we might get 5% for the next 10 years. I don't have a magic ball, but if it ever goes down to 2%,
we're back to the 800.
we're back to the
500.
$800,000 instead of the 2.5, 3 million that we're getting.
Then now we have even more problems on top of our
Yes.
existing problems. Yes.
Right, that's why I said, it's not like you can take long-term, you can't take reoccurring stuff out of that money. You can do a lot of one-times out of it because,
Correct.
I mean, I guess insurance is one, it's reoccurring, but you know what I'm getting at.
But again,
It's definitely not a secure funding source.
no, but I think some of the ways that we've moved some budgeting items around and redone some things, I think slowly here over the next couple of years, those things will fix themselves out. The health insurance will fix itself out. Those things will fix themselves out. These IT, vans and motor vehicles for any departments that need them when they come up, like, those kinds of things will shake out. But again, it's not immediate. It's not right away.
Right.
It'll take a little bit of
Incremental.
time, but I fully see over the next 3 years, there's no reason with what we have and our growth that we couldn't get everything back to normal and back to flush. But that's if everything else then over the next 3 years stayed status quo.
That's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
which is
That's not
impossible.
It's impossible, right?
So that puts us right back in the, I mean, again, we're making the changes now to slowly fix things. But being as we're already behind, until you get completely caught back up, you're not gonna beat it.
Right.
It's just, you're trying, I mean. So it's just, it's one of those, it is a tough call this year. I mean, everyone did get a 3% raise last year, so, telling everyone, hey, we're gonna freeze it all this year and, move it on to next year, like. To me, that's not unreasonable, but at the same time, then you get every single department, cost of living.
I
get that too.
I get that too.
So there's, I mean,
I
if you
get
give
that too.
everyone a.
So, but, that brings me up to a good question here is 1%, 2%, 3% raises versus a dollar amount or something tiered, like a person making 40,000 with 3% raise kind of gets screwed versus a person making 90,000.
Yeah.
How do we kind of make that a little bit better for that person making 40,000?
And what did you say about the stipends, your math on that? Like, because that idea, I believe a couple people had mentioned on the council, the idea of stipends, but you actually calc out the real dollar figure per paycheck for like $1,000 stipend. Wasn't it like less than $20 a paycheck?
Oh, you're talking about if we give people the raise versus like a one-time, yeah, so that's more. Again, that's like the micro versus macro, do you give someone $1,000 stipend where $1,000 actually means something to them, or do you give them $1,000 raise and that comes in the form of $12.62 an extra paycheck?
No, what's different with the raise, it's gonna be consistent in the next year that we're looking forward, as opposed to. If you
Mhm.
give
Yeah,
a
stipend, exactly,
You won't have to give it the following year.
No, I'm not
yeah.
disagreeing, that's what I'm saying, there's so many different ways to go about it, so, I mean.
Or a dollar amount for a raise instead of percentages,
Yes.
because like I said, you make 100,000, you're getting a 3% raise, that's $3,000 versus someone who's making 40,000, only getting $1,200.
Mhm.
You've kind of seen it gone both ways, Jeremy. Do you, like, based on your experience with the raises, like the dollar amount versus the percentage, like, do you have any insight on how that, like,
For stipends.
Yeah.
versus Raises.
Employees don't like stipends.
Yeah.
I know
They
that.
don't like the
Right.
thought of it's not permanent or reoccurring. I think we mostly, since I've been here, mostly done percentages. I think we try flat amounts because it does. You know, if you do percentages, then obviously the person making 80,000 is gonna get twice as much, you know, as the person making 40,000. So it's a completely different raise. When you get flat amount, and it's equal to everybody, it's the same amount. It's different,
And I understand if you're making 90,000, there's a reason why, because it's a leadership issue, right? I mean, there could be, you know, there's usually a reason why people make more money, maybe someone's starting off on a job, you know, I get that, but at the end of the day, it's,
Usually for.
generally the people that are. at
you're
the
trying to
lower
get
end
your
of it.
bottom up a little bit more. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you wanna get your bottom up so they stay with you to
Those
get
are,
to
those are the
50, 60,
people who
70,000
cost of
job.
living impacts,
Right,
you know, a lot
the
more,
most.
so.
Right, exactly.
is that, I don't know, maybe is that part of the problem that we got into? We gotta do the, you know, the wage study and do everything, and that's one reason the gaps grew so much in this percentages, because percentage, like, 30% getting salary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where to me, like, the tough call comes in. It's not, there's no right answer, wrong answer. There's just ideas at this point.
Right.
And seeing, I mean, if anyone has ideas, I can easily calc them out.
That's the big thing too. We want to take away is that as you guys kind of come up with different scenarios that maybe we could flush that out ahead of time during these meetings or whatever. We just want to make sure we're available to you guys as you start to kind of tinker with, you know, what you're playing with in the general fund now. It's all on that paper. And then as you guys kind of start talking about scenarios or whatever, just know that we're available to kind of run the numbers for you and double check all that. So
And we
that way we have kind of thought our way through everything by the time it gets there. And we're not, you know, trying to come up with something at the last minute again this year. Or like, you know, that was a rough one and we just kind of want to we want to do better, from the auditor's perspective, just help you guys be a little bit more prepared for it, so.
If you want to do this, this is what happens. If you want to do this, this is what happens. Simple scenario chart.
Do we know what the true, you know, that's the gap, but the true expenditures were last year on the general fund compared to what we budgeted?
Oh man, we find out though.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Well, the true
40, 45 versus 47 half, 47.5. So 45.5. I mean, yeah, I'd have to go look it up exactly, but like you said, I mean, we're right in that normal range of what we don't spend every year.
Yeah, whatever we had budgeted. Plus. The additional we did all year. Yeah. What wasn't expected. You did that spreadsheet last year, remember?
Mhm.
Yep, we can get that one ready to go for this year too.
We couldn't have overspent, right? I mean, the carryover grew, didn't it? No?
No, yeah, I mean, again, so 2022, we ended the year with 12, like 11 and a half in the general fund. Then the last year, we were at 15 and a half in the general fund. So
You know, a lot of that.
that's pretty much all interest.
You're talking,
Yeah,
end of year
exactly.
balance on December 31st, what the balance was
We
at.
figured out that interest.
Okay.
money, you know,
We would be pretty much stagnant. Or at least, you know, just slowly.
Trying to figure out the number where we're true. Yeah, it's true. Revenue versus expenditures, right? Really true. It should, that increase. Interest on the last year, this year. Especially.
That's what we were talking, remember we were talking, it's like, you know, we can use, I know you guys budget other things out of it too, as far as,
Sure.
you know, but it's one of the things I would safely say you know, historically, probably the interest rates haven't, you know, as bad as they were, we're still, I think the lowest, what, making 600 grand on it or something, or 500 grand on it. So you could probably safely say, you know, $1 million. 700, because, you know, interest rates,
Yeah.
they might go down to, you know, where they were, but that was pretty historic low interest rates, but, you know, are they gonna stay at 4.5%, 5% or whatever the state's paying?
Yeah, it's tough,
That's-
it's
that's-
tough one to
that's-
budget
that's
for,
tough
you
one to
know,
Budget for, that's what I'm saying, so.
but, you
But,
know.
but I would be safe and comfortable in saying, you know, we're gonna get 1 million.
We're gonna get $1 million each year, I mean, if we don't get.
If it goes all the way back down to
Yeah.
this lowest, we're probably still gonna be
Yeah.
pulling in right around. it.
Right. Something like that, yeah.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What does it take to?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What does it take to,
Yeah, it's
we
really.
need a vote to get these cleaned up, paid out of the general fund, these, funds here that we talked about last.
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah, so that, yeah, so
Can
that
you
would,
bring that up? Can the auditor bring it up to the next agenda?
Oh.
yeah,
Put on the agenda,
Mhm.
get these
Mhm.
cleaned up and moved into the general fund.
Mhm.
And I was gonna ask you guys, at this point, you met with the department heads on the budgets.
Yep.
You have a kind of a decent handle,
Mhm, yeah.
like you were talking about, if somebody needed a printer, you know, just for them to be able to do their job. You kind of have a handle on that for each department, or?
Yeah.
I guess my thing is, I don't want to do stipends again, that's a pain in the ass, and, I don't like stipends, that's just my suggestion.
I don't think employees care for it too much either.
Huh?
Employees don't care.
No,
for
they
them.
don't like-
I think we had to do a stipend one year in our
I
school
don't agree
system,
with
because we didn't have the
We
money.
had the ARPA money and we did
Yeah.
a second with that, and that turned, I think some of it came back to bite us, but I guess what I'd like to throw out is that if we can get we have a handle on, you've seen the budgets of who really needs what, as far as so they can run their department. And again, I think the question I posed, parents said kind of wait for to come in and, you know, let the departments head know, you know, we're not hiring additional people, and right now come in at the same budget with salaries. And kind of see where we are. That's just my suggestion, kind of see where we are with enough time to be able to say, okay, we have. I don't like spending everything. It would be nice if we had a surplus
Mhm.
at the end of the year.
Mhm.
Start
Yeah, that's
to
a good
build
point
this
too,
up.
yeah. Mhm.
Instead of exhaust every dollar that we have, even if it's for raises, but because what I have seen, the raises are competitive. We have brought everybody up to midpoint. You were talking about the $40,000. I don't even know what that, you know, I guess depending on what that job is.
Job is, yeah, no, I get it.
But, again, this is just for, you know, discussion, but to kind of, at what point, they send a message to the department heads that at this point, you know, do they resubmit their budget with no raises and no additional people? And then kind of give them what they need in the operational line items to, like if they need it, you know, printer keeps coming up.
that's what I was kind of saying,
Yeah.
like, you know, give them the 2,000.
Give that
3,000.
and have that number. And then have enough time at the end of the year during the budget cycle, say, okay, now we're at a point where here's what we have. You know, to work with for salaries, and maybe even, you know, some people are gonna ask for additional hires. At least we have some numbers to work with, and are we gonna, I would like to stay with percentage raises personally. And stay away from the stipends or the across the board type thing, because of, you know, I think they would appreciate that more. It kind of goes into their retirement pension base anyway, doesn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, the base, yeah.
And then make a decision as a council, you know, where we might be able to do some salary increases. Sure, I mean, at least we have a number to work with once the needs are met for each department. I think you've kind of met with them already and have an idea, you know, what their needs are and budget for that. And let's see what we have at the end to be able, we might not be able to give raises this year, you know, but again, I think it'd be nice to be able to, even if we could do something, of whether it's a percentage of some sort, might not be 3 or 5%, but still be able to have something left over.
Mhm.
That'll just, it seems like we could go down to zero.
Yeah, that's a great point. I
Every
mean,
year,
I mean, realistically, you could do a, 1.5% raise with giving everyone their 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 series and still have, not spend up all of it. So we can definitely put those scenarios together for it.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there for the group,
Yeah.
to see what you think, and
That's what we want on these meetings, is thoughts, ideas, scenarios. That way then we can at least draw them up and say, yeah, this works. Yeah, no, this doesn't.
would you find it at all useful that with these weekly meetings, if maybe some of the departments that are passing along budget requests to us for next year? Because like the other thing is in that whole scenario of them submitting budgets to us, like we're just the number guys, like you guys are the elected officials. If they were to come down here and maybe present their case a little bit more, department head to the board and not, it's like really, we can put the numbers together, but
that's not a bad idea to meet with us and meet with them.
yeah, just because we had, like, Annetta came in here, ran through it here, but that way you're not under the gun in front of a budget session, that they can at least flush out some of the details, and I know a lot of, like, everybody doing the legwork, up until budget time seems to be really, paying dividends this year, so, I mean, we'd be happy to do that. I know next week, J-Bo had requested that we set some time aside for him at this budget meeting to go over his roads proposal and then salary figures for his budget. So, we have a good freewheeling discussion here, but also having maybe a little bit structure in terms of if we have a department head that is submitting something that they would like to kind of personally present to you. I think that might.
I just might, I would like to, I just wonder if there's anybody in the county that's underpaid at this point. I mean, any of our employees that are just really, because they were
Mhm.
at one time. We had some that were, I think they were underpaid, but over the last couple of years with the wage study, I wonder if that's still the case.
I think the department heads are supposed to go make sure and double check on their own departments, right? I mean, I think a couple of them did come back.
Yeah.
That was before I got elected, and I saw watching some videos, they came back and, hey, just by the way, guys, you missed
Right.
Yeah.
missed this person or did this, and they were like,
Mhm.
oh, yep, sorry, and then they kind of readjusted it from what I thought. I mean, I would hope the department heads would.
And I don't know of anybody at this point that still has been missed or is below.
Yeah, grossly underpaid. Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of them are reflected in, the ones that the department heads feel like are underpaid, are reflected in their salary increases, with the budget submissions.
The main one I can think of is juvenile detention comparing themselves to jailers. That's, again, I'm just throwing things out there, like off the top of my head, there's honestly, I mean, you get everyone, I never make a job, no one in the world can make
It's always,
it up.
I mean, money and manpower are gonna always be, but
But for people like that are, emailing me or saying, Ryan, like, I can't do this, I can't keep these people with this amount or this, for the most part, those things don't happen too much. I mean, the Parks Department, couple, juvenile probation things on there, but for the most part, I think most departments are fairly happy with at least, what they have right now. And I mean, outside I don't think anyone is grossly misunderpaid to where like they're emailing me and saying, or emailing Dave or anyone saying, hey, we're gonna lose this person if we don't bump their salary 10 grand. Like we don't get those requests, so I don't see that being. But at the same time, I mean, one of the things maybe we can look at is overhead. Like, how many turnovers we've had in all the departments, see how many people quit.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in the limited experience we've had for the last year and a half, it's always like getting to know a lot of the department heads and how the departments operate. Requires a lot of investigative work to some degree, so every single department has its own individual flow. So it's like judging it just by the number of turnover or salary sometimes doesn't give you the whole picture.
True.
So I think, bringing a couple of them down here while we still have the gift of a couple of months before budget, especially those who've been advocating to our office in one way or the other that they need funds. If that's something that you guys would want us to just kind of advise them of is, hey, these Thursday meetings, like,
I think it's a good idea.
letting them know, like, hey, you can get in front of the council without the pressure of.
Speaking of that, I
getting
think
voted on.
Mike wanted to come next Thursday.
Yeah, J-Bo,
So
J-Bo
wanted to
will.
come next Thursday, and, so you guys all know, and I'm probably gonna devote the whole hour to
His salaries and roads. so-
salaries, roads, and then we can ask him about I really wanna get in depth with the roads and what his thoughts are and on this, what he presented to us at the last meeting too. And
Cause and it's,
Really
I mean,
drilled down.
it's a big number, but a lot of work went into it.
Right.
We finally have a real number.
And it was in conjunction with the highway, so we know that, like,
They're talking together, not, oh, by the way, and it's gonna be this on top.
so that, I know he put a lot of work into that, so I feel like that would be really helpful for all of us to, kind of walk through it. It's taken me a couple of conversations with him to understand it, and I still don't have my head all the way wrapped around it, so. But I mean, it's definitely coming down the pipeline. You hammered on roads last budget season, and you've been, I mean, all of you guys have individually said stuff about roads to us. I know it's something infrastructure wise that means a lot to the county, so it's a high priority item.
One last question I had was, 911, Debbie said that she can do with 6 less people, but she wanted to use that money for raises. So is that money, let's just say it doesn't go to raises, and she can go with less people, does that money go back in the general fund?
That's her, is that her
No.
911 surcharge fund?
So that is her surcharge fund.
It's all
so-
surcharge.
Yep, so it would, it doesn't help or hurt us one way or the other. Now, the only place it could help in her situation is if then you move stuff out of the foundation budget back into her budget. She's done, yeah, she's done quite a bit of that, and there are 2 line items that she cannot move from the foundation budget into her surcharge, because surcharge won't allow it. It's uniforms and clothing, that's like $2,500, and it's like 9,000.
Yeah, that Indiana code prohibits certain expenses out of the surcharge fund, correct?
No, yeah, no, she's absolutely done that, and I mean, there's obviously more that she could take on if you didn't give those raises, but at the same time, those are the ones to me are the really, really difficult ones, where someone does something like that. It'd be one thing if it was a complete restructuring, kind of like the way I see planning commission. Planning commission, I see it as a complete restructuring from the top down. Where E911, you're really just eliminating positions and redistributing money. But I also get it to where maybe that $5,000 then keeps all of those E911 operators, and then we don't have the turnover. But again, we went from their $20 stipend to their $240 stipend, and that didn't seem to help out. So again, throwing money and stuff does not always fix it.
And she has the luxury of having that money.
She
There are other departments that would like to pay their people, they just don't have a fund like that to work with. But, okay. We have a meeting at 4.
For the TTD.
Yeah, upstairs, yeah.
Transportation districts? With RDA finally?
Well,
Oh, that's gonna be an issue.
I'll let you guys get to that one. I gotta take off.
Yeah,
So it's up there.
yeah.
Up in the auditors,
and, I believe August.
I think so.
much terms off the RDA. Jeremy, August, and quick enough that gentleman runs out if we finally get point something.
I think we should. Following, there's marching orders. Somebody doesn't report to us and doesn't give us any reports, we gotta remove them.
Yeah.